Hi, I'm Stephen Carson. This is my wife, Heather.
Good morning.
We're also known as RadLib, short for my channel, Radical Liberation, and Mrs. Radlib.
Mhm.
Okay, we're coming at you from St. Louis, Missouri, in these United States. We're going to talk about a topic my wife wrote about um, 14 years ago.
Oh my gosh, has it been that long?
I think
Wow.
so. Let me look at the date on that article again. It was 2000, January 2008.
Wow.
That Heather wrote an article for LouRockwell.com
Mhm.
on this topic. I think I've prodded and pushed my wife to broaden the topic slightly, um, because originally she was just thinking about modesty, but I think that modesty is kind of one half of the story,
Mhm.
you could say, right? Because we all recognize and have rather rude words for women who dress immodestly.
Mhm.
We know how to talk about that. And so we're Heather will be talking about that, and that's sort of one way to fall off the horse, right? But there's another way to fall off the horse that I wanted Heather to address, so that we can end up focusing on the dressing like a lady. So on one side is dressing in an immodest way. I won't use any of the bad terms for it, rude terms for it. On the other side, though, is dressing frumpy, androgynously, not really dressing as a woman.
Mhm.
And women, as you may or may not have noticed, tend to care about how they look, and they want to present themselves well generally, right? Um, and I don't think there's anything unnatural in that. In fact, I think it's like really natural that a woman would want to present herself present her appearance in a way that's complementary to her looks and everything. So between these two things, dressing immodestly and dressing frumpily, androgynously, there's dressing like a lady. And so that's what we're going to end up, but that's not where we're going to start, right, Heather?
Yeah, well, I don't think we can talk about dress um, without touching on issues like body image and modesty and things like that. And so that's kind of really where I wanted to start. And I love this quote by C.S. Lewis. He says, I have no sympathy with moralists who frown at the increasing crudity of female provocativeness. These signs of desperate competition fill me with pity. So, several years ago, 14 years ago to be exact, there was a show. First, it started in the UK, and then they did a US version. It was called How to Look Good Naked. And I was like, what in the world is this? Would you pull up my uh, thing on that? So I
Wait,
was,
this?
yeah,
Oh,
thank
okay,
you.
okay.
Yeah. So I was like, I mean, I'm a woman, okay, and I was already watching with interest this whole body image war, and you know, not obviously not from the outside. I am a woman, and I do feel self-conscious about my body, and you know, the sexual revolution has had such a profound impact on really every aspect of our life. Most noticeably in how women present themselves physically out of the home. So, in the name of liberation, women are, encouraged to put themselves first, put career before family, and fight for the right to abort their child. But nothing says you've come a long way, baby, to use an old slogan from our childhood, like the if you've got it, flaunt it attitude promoted all over the media. And the competition is extraordinarily fierce with women, as the C.S. Lewis quote indicates. So, this latest example many years ago was this television show called How to Look Good Naked that was supposed to teach women of all shapes and sizes how to go from self-loathing to self-loving without resorting to interventions like extreme dieting or cosmetic surgery, things like that, making the claim that 4 out of 5 American women say they're dissatisfied with their bodies. So there was this free offer to watch the show because I was like, okay, I got to see what this is about. And so I did. And it was, to use the word cringe is an understatement. I mean, it was mortifying
Yeah,
what they put this woman through.
right.
Okay. So just a little brief thing on this. their first young woman in the episode, they took her through a week-long facial fear therapy. It was like exposure therapy is what we would call in my field. Okay.
Right.
She was put in a room full of mirrors and asked to strip down to her bra and panties, which she in fact spent most of the show in, her bra and panties only. Okay. And then she was asked to describe tearfully all the areas that she hated on her body.
Right, which reminds us of the scene from the movie, right, where they
Mean Girls?
Mean Girls.
Oh my
They
gosh.
stand in front of the mirror, and each one
It's like,
picks out, oh, my nose is too big.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Oh, and I hate that freckle, and then they ask the
homeschool girl. She's like,
yeah.
What do
you hate about yourself? And she's like, I don't really think that way.
Right,
Anyway.
exactly. So
Great scene.
it is a really great scene, and it's a really funny movie. So so she describes her body as like disgusting and huge, and she uses words like hate, like I hate these parts of my body. And the show takes her through a variety of exercises to help her deal with her self-perception, including projecting a giant sized image of her body in her bra and panties, not showing her face. So we have full-on objectification. Okay?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's
I didn't know about that.
depersonalization of her body parts, okay?
Right.
On the side of a building, okay? And then onlookers were invited to look at it and critique her body, okay, while she watched these critiques of her body, okay? So male and female passersby were making comments like, she has a nice rack. She has nice hips, nice legs, okay? After all that, she's given a makeover and taught what to buy for her body type in the way of clothing. And then she's asked, manipulated really, because this is the part that really I found absolutely ridiculous, okay? Especially given the feminist emphasis on consent in our culture. She says no numerous times before finally giving into this, okay? She is asked to pose nude. She says no, okay? But they just keep hammering away at her, and they wear her down. So she's asked to pose nude at the end of the show as proof of her now self-accepting, self-loving attitude. Okay. By her account, her attitude has changed. She and the host take to the streets for her final test. Okay. And her nude image is projected on the building where the old image of her in bra and panties was previously. Seeing herself up there, since the host did not even ask her first, she's shocked. Okay. She is shocked. She is then instructed to ask onlookers if she looks good naked. Hey, you stranger, do I look good naked?
Right.
Her crowning compliment was given by another woman who states emphatically, I think you look like a hot piece of ass. To which this woman replies while hugging the stranger, oh, thank you.
Oh my God.
Okay. So that's my intro. Okay.
So many things wrong. Anyway.
So I literally had, I think I had to like take a shower after watching the show. Like I was like, please cleanse it off of me. I mean, there was 5 seasons of this show.
Yeah.
5 seasons in the US. So, okay. So if being bombarded with images of other scantily clad women is causing comparison, competition, self-loathing, how is more of the same actually going to help, right? Okay. So, can you go to my notes, please? Up. Okay. So, sorry, here we go. The focus that women place on their bodies in this culture is unhealthy and imbalanced. And I mean, anytime, I don't really listen to the radio anymore, but when I did, or even, magazine covers, you're just bombarded with anti-wrinkle creams and, going to tanning spas, although maybe that's falling out of fashion a little bit because of the realization that overexposure to sun causes cancer.
Yeah, right.
But there's cosmetic surgery, there's Botox, there's a lot of emphasis on aging as something that is really negative, but also to manipulate and do things to a youthful body as well. Like it's not even good enough to be youthful anymore,
Right.
So, all of this is done in a vain attempt to preserve and beautify what will inevitably wither. And self-hatred is rampant in the lives of women. I mean, we touched upon it. I'm not sure how many of you watched Women's Hour yesterday. The first half of the hour, we discussed raising babies and being a new mother. But the second half was focused on a particular discussion on Twitter that I was not a part of, but it was touching on body image and the like. So this pressure to be considered hot is immense. Yet the prevailing logic is that the body is really not a big deal. You know, I mean, it's kind of like what we touched upon with Sex and Society. It's the same kind of logic that sex is not a big deal, our bodies are not a big deal, and that shame and embarrassment are archaic notions, and that those who've got it should flaunt it, and those who don't got it should just flaunt it anyway, right? I mean, that's the basic idea. So I want to focus a moment on the idea of embarrassment because I think this is a topic that is not talked about quite enough. And I love poetry. I'm in fact in homeschool right now. I've got my middle school boys doing a whole semester on poetry as we study the English language this semester. Could you up my notes, please?
Right. Oh, just wanted to mention I put two links in the chat.
Oh,
One
good.
is to Heather's article that she was drawing from, talking about the how to look good naked, and
Yeah.
you go on from there in that article.
Yeah, and it's a very short article.
And then I also put a link to Whammon Hour, is what it's actually called, Heather.
Oh, okay.
See, Whammon.
Women, all right.
Whammon Hour with Poe moderating.
Okay.
And that was Heather's first appearance
Yes.
on that. So anyway, kind of fun. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
that was fun. So I want to talk about what Wendy Shallot refers to as the war on embarrassment. Let me begin by quoting from John Keats from his poem. I forget the title of it. I think it's Eve's Apple. I can't remember the whole title, but he says, "There's a blush for want and a blush for shan't, and a blush for having done it. There's a blush for thought and a blush for naught, and a blush for just begun it." Wendy Shallot discusses this war on embarrassment in her book, A Return to Modesty, and I do have a copy of it here. This was published back in 1999.
Let me show you the camera.
Yeah, this was published back in 1999, so an old book by today's standards, I suppose. And she talks about this war on embarrassment. She points out that embarrassment has a very beneficial function in society, and that embarrassment is an indication that something significant is going on, that a boundary is being threatened, either by you or by others. And this is a very simple signal that can help us to gauge what is and what is not appropriate in terms of how we dress, and you know, as it relates to our bodies. And you know, watching that show and seeing the embarrassment on her face,
natural embarrassment
that she was being manipulated and coerced to push down,
to
deny and to not feel. So there's a word that we therapists refer to. It's called disassociation. Okay. So when we have a feeling that is a signal to us that something is happening, significant is happening, that a boundary is being crossed, her naked image was projected publicly without her permission. She was coerced into posing naked for it. She felt embarrassed about it. Okay. A boundary was crossed. This is significant. Okay. And, you know, the way that women are encouraged to dress in public is embarrassing. Okay. It's okay to feel that you want to cover certain parts of your body in our culture. Okay. Modesty is an embarrassment about how much of our bodies we expose is a very cultural thing. There are other cultures that have different levels of exposure of your body. And so I'm speaking specifically about this culture, the Western American culture, possibly British culture. But you know, this encouragement to disassociate is all over the place in terms of the sexual revolution and how we dress as well. And it's just kind of crazy. You know?
I wanted to interject a little historical note. Yeah, just recently on Twitter, some of you might have seen I was talking about the sexual revolution in the Bolshevik, in the early Bolshevik regime in the early Soviet Union. This is not well remembered. One reason is that it didn't go very well, and so they don't like to bring it up. Proponents of sexual revolution don't like to talk about it. And secondly, because it didn't go very well, it was cut short. So it didn't last, and the Soviet Union did not stay in the place they started in. The key name here is Alexandra Kollontai, she was a key figure in pushing this. And when you talked about war on shame or war on embarrassment, that was really striking because one of the things they did in this initial push against traditional Christian sexual ethics and so forth was to explicitly fight against shame. They would have nude marches, like in Moscow, etc., that were called a march on shame. I wish I could get the exact phrase, but it was something like march against shame. And basically, we are going to destroy shame by walking around naked. And then we'll realize that shame is an illusion, you know, a religious Christian bourgeois illusion or whatever, and we will be free. I mean, we've heard this thing from nudists, right? But it was pushed by the regime in the Soviet Union for a little while. And then just to cut to the chase, the sexual revolution caused such chaos, massive illegitimacy. And they just went from 0 to 50 on this in a couple years. It caused such chaos that it was contributing to the possibility that the Bolsheviks would lose control, lose power.
Wow.
And of course, them having power was way more important than their sexual revolution. So they crushed the sexual revolution. By the 30s, they were, I don't know if they ever made abortion illegal again, but they made homosexuality legal in the sexual revolution period and then made it illegal again in the 30s, et cetera, et cetera. They like changed all these rules and then they started changing them back because they were like, we are just having complete chaos in our society.
They opened Pandora's box.
Exactly.
They're trying to close it back up again.
So it's a story that I wish more people knew because, you know, some of these things have been done before. Even the Soviets realized, oh wait, this is not going well.
Wow.
We better put a stop to this. So anyway, so they literally marched against shame in the nude.
Right.
In the early Bolshevik Revolution.
Well, and I think that even in young children, okay, so the idea that when we feel embarrassed and we're being asked to essentially overcome what is a natural inhibition in our life, even young children are being encouraged to overcome their inhibitions before they even know what inhibition means. You know, I mean, so and it happens to adults as well. And so you know what I want to say about embarrassment is that it's a signal, just like every other feeling we have. It's information. It's important information, and it should cause you to pause and go, okay, you know, what exactly am I feeling here? You know, and why, and don't disassociate. You know, listen to your body and do what feels safe to you and comfortable, you know. So anyway, I support you in that.
Lambda brought a great passage from scripture here.
Yeah.
And those parts of the body that we think to be less honorable, we clothe these with greater honor. And our unpresentable parts have a better presentation.
Interesting. So from the neck
Paul.
to the interesting. So okay, well let's talk a little bit about modesty. I like Mark Twain's quote, you know, clothes make the man, naked people have little or no influence on society. I always thought that to be really funny. So to go back to Wendy Shallot, you know, in her book, A Return to Modesty, modesty has the tandem definition, of course. First, humility, a realistic view of oneself, you know, and second, the damping down of one's allure. So as it relates to women, because we're talking about how to dress like a lady, if women used to be oppressed by being forced to cover themselves, act subordinate and self-effacing, we're now oppressed by having fallen off the horse on the other side. You know, I can't go on Amazon to look for a Halloween costume without sexy cat girl, sexy maid, sexy this. Everything has to be sexy. And you know, if you're not sexy, then it's like you have no value. But actually the opposite is true. There was a study, and I have the link in my email, but I didn't give it to you. But there was a study about perceptions on how women dress. I'm kind of wanting to pull that up real quick and show Stephen the link. Maybe he can do something about it. But anyway, and so it was dress, body, and the self. It was a social psychology study. And what they found was that provocative dress had an overall negative perception by both sexes. So you would think that when women dress provocative, that would have like a positive effect on men. It didn't. It didn't. Men saw women as less valuable
Right.
when they were dressed in more provocative ways. Okay.
So it literally signals I'm less valuable.
Yes. 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 Okay. So, we've really fallen off the horse on the other side. We have a "you go girl" mantra, complete with plunging neckline and a skirt that makes the entire world your gynecologist.
Thank you to Absolutely Fabulous for that
Yeah.
hilarious line.
Yeah, drawing
Anyway.
from Absolutely Fabulous for that. Who was it? Patsy that said that?
Patsy.
She's amazing. So true modesty strikes an easy balance. Okay. Damping down one's allure might mean covering up, but covering up does not mean denying sexual charm or physical beauty. Rather, it is a recognition and respect of the very power of our sexual and physical appearance and choosing to reveal it later. Okay. So Wendy Shallot points out that women who dress and act modestly conduct themselves in ways that shroud their sexuality in mystery. They live in a way that makes womanliness a more transcendent, implicit quality. Transcendent, thank you. Implicit quality than a crude, explicit quality. Widespread, do you have
I want to make a comment here.
Sure.
I feel like there's a general theme that I keep seeing, right? Which is that modernity or our age, whatever you want to call it, it tends to flatten things out. Things that are rich and deep and mysterious. We want to remove that mystery. We want to uncover. We want to deconstruct. We want to reveal and show that this thing that everybody's making a big deal about is just this. Right. I feel like I've been hearing this all my life. Oh, it's just this. It's just that.
Yeah, there's a word
in
for
other
that.
words, well, it's reductionism.
It's
the term I would
disenchantment
use. Disenchantment.
There's been a disenchantment of sex. There's been a disenchantment of the female body.
Right.
There's been all of it. All of it is part of the sexual revolution. All of it. Right. All of this.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, widespread practice of modesty in dress would serve to pull the sensual out of the gutter, right, and give it the reverence and respect that it deserves.
Yeah, and I really loved in the Women Hour yesterday that you really focused on the sensual. If nothing else, catch that part where Heather talks about the sensuality of the relationship between a mother and baby, mother and her baby. And what I think you hear there is that Heather is not dismissing the sensual. She is not having, what they told us, and I don't think this is even true, but what they told us is that like the Victorians and people who had modesty and morals in the past hated sexuality, hated sensuality, they hated the body, because if they didn't, then they would act like sexual revolutionaries.
Right.
So, but I don't think that's right. I think in Heather's attitude that you saw yesterday, you see a celebration of the sensual. In fact, the way she talks about the relationship between mother and baby, you might find almost shocking, but it's because the richness of and value of the sensual experience has been again flattened and made into something thin and cheap instead of the rich embodied experience it is to right anyway.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And there are other benefits to modesty, other than what I'm talking about here. I mean, female modesty in particular, and there is male modesty, and I'm not touching upon that today because we're talking about
focusing on this
on how to dress like a lady, okay? But female modesty in particular acknowledges that women are of great value, so great, in fact, that they need to be protected. And there's, I hear a lot of balking about protecting women as though it immediately follows logically that I'm saying that women are owned by men, that daughters are owned by their fathers. I'm just saying they need to be protected, And Wendy Shallot goes further and she says that, a society that has lost its respect for female modesty is not just one which no longer teaches men to be protective toward women. It's a society which treats women as some kind of a joke, and I think about this show, this How to Look Good Naked.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember, afterwards I was just like, first of all, I mean, my initial response was, is this a joke? Like,
Yeah.
and just the whole thing was just humiliating,
Yeah.
and I'm watching this poor young woman, you know, being told to push down her natural inhibition to protect herself,
Right.
and to feel
When you say joke, the word prank came to mind.
yes, that's what it felt like.
Yeah, like they're doing a prank
Like,
on
I
her.
almost couldn't watch
And
it.
when we do a prank on someone, what does it do? It sort of makes them seem absurd.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And she was feeling that.
yes.
And they were telling her, stop feeling that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It was really uncomfortable to watch, but also, it's really, we got to stop disassociating people.
Right. Right.
I think we've got a real problem with
And
it as a culture.
And there's some great comments in the live chat from Mrs. Anglo Ortho on her own experience with this.
Okay.
So
Do you want to pull out one of
no,
those?
they're a little long, but I
Okay.
just recommend folks to recommend it to your attention.
And I think that just to sort of cap off this topic of modesty, and there's a lot more that could be said about it, but it relates to many of the other things that we've been talking about. Okay, a man is not going to court a woman if he doesn't have to court her. Okay.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there has to be, if you're just laying it all out there and everything's just hanging, I mean, Shallot puts it this way: in order to court women, men must, in some sense, need to court women. Do people imagine men courted women in the past because they simply found it more fun than casual sex? Okay, I mean, no, it was because women's modesty required it. Okay, if you're interested in the things that we've been talking about, in being in a marriage and having a connected marriage, a marriage that is long lasting, if you're interested in sex that is not disassociated, that is for the purpose of bonding, is for the purpose of creating human beings.
Deep, rich bonding.
Right.
Yeah.
Modesty is a piece of this.
Right.
For us women. It is for men as well, but in a different way.
Right.
But it is a big piece of this for women.
I just wanted to address the men's side real quick. We are focusing on women. I have written on the man's side of this in an article called "The Year of Dressing Dangerously." I'm sharing that right now.
Oh, good.
And if you're interested in this topic of how to dress, I recommend my article to you. And then in that article, the very first link is to an article by Jeff Tucker called "How to Dress Like a Man." My article is the why. More is about the why. Jeffrey's article is the how. He just goes right to it and says, if you want to dress like this, here's how to do it.
Yeah.
And he just makes it really simple. And that article, literally, my wife and I went out. I read that article, and that evening my wife went out and went to a store and bought me a sport coat.
Yeah.
And I've been dressing in a sport coat and tie ever since.
Yeah. And
that was,
it was a big change.
This was 18 years ago.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, 19 years ago, because I wrote the article after 1 year. That's why I called it
the year of dressing dangerously. Yeah, exactly.
After 1 year of doing it. So it's been we're going towards 20 years of me dressing like this.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, recommend that to you guys.
It's not like you dressed like a slob, when we got married or whatever, but it was still a big change for both of us because
we came from hippie.
We came from the hippie kind of thing,
Kind of, sort of. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Your parents were hippies. My parents ministered to hippies.
Yeah, but you were raised around hippies.
We were both around hippies, yeah, one way or another.
So you sharing your talking about your article is a great segue because I do want to get into some practical things. This is kind of a shorter talk this morning, and hopefully there'll be some questions in the comments that we can address before all is said and done. So given the above things that I've shared, we can begin to piece together some vague idea about how to be modest, but I want to get very specific and offer some very concrete suggestions. You don't have to dress plain or frumpy in order to dress modestly. And what I mean by frumpy is wearing clothes that are too big for you, where there's a lot of fabric and it doesn't really fit, those kinds of things. And I'm going to refer to...
also just not... I feel like what I'll see in Christian circles, because Heather and I are in Christian circles, right? What I'll see in Christian circles is women will, get religion, be like, I'm going to dress modestly,
Get
which is good,
religion.
which is good. Well, maybe quite literally,
Yeah,
they can become
they
Christians, right?
convert. Right.
Yeah, and they're like examining every part of their life
Yeah.
in the light of wanting to please their Lord Jesus, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they look at the way they dress and they're like, hey, I've been dressing like the culture's been teaching me. I've been dressing immodestly, and I want to stop that.
Yeah.
All of that is great, right?
Yeah.
But like I said at the beginning, you can then fall off the horse on the other side and reject all these things that are so deeply part of every woman I've ever known, which is, I am feminine. I want to present myself in a way where I look, like a woman,
Right. Right.
and look feminine and pleasing. I don't think that the Lord requires us to chuck that when we move away from immodesty. It's just, you just got to find the right balance. That's why I wanted to make sure that our show today was not just about modesty. It was about finding that balance. Because, yeah, I don't think the Lord requires women to look androgynous or wear poorly fitting clothes or be 19 and look like they're a grandma or something, I don't think any of this, that doesn't make sense. I mean, God gave us sexuality. God gave us the beauty of women, and that, women are the glory of men, the scriptures say, right? Yeah. This is all from the Lord, right? We've seen it twisted and torn and flattened and all that stuff. Totally get it. And we need to move away from the culture on that. But you can you need to uphold all the truths at the same time, right? The truth of modesty as well as the truth of femininity, that God created women, and the scriptures in the Song of Solomon and many other places celebrate women and their beauty, and that the woman being pleasing to her husband, and her husband enjoying his wife and her body through their years together. All of these things are written about in the scriptures very movingly and sensually.
Right.
That is part of it too.
Yeah.
And I see Christians just sort of getting rid of that part sometimes, conservative Christians, and that's not right. That's not balanced. And and it's just ultimately not going to be satisfying. Right. Women don't like to look bad. They just don't.
Well, and I think what ultimately has happened is that we have forgotten how. Because my parents never taught me how to dress.
Right.
I mean, both my parents wore jeans, sometimes ripped up jeans, and t-shirts. I mean, that's what I was taught. Now we might dress
like
up.
A new uniform. No.
Well, it really was the uniform that came out of the 60s.
Right.
Bell bottoms or jeans and t-shirts and no bra.
Right.
So again with the theme of we're in the ruins. Okay. We are in the ruins as far as how to dress as well as everything else.
Yep.
And so we have to start somewhere. And so I wanted to give people some just very concrete suggestions, someone else's suggestions first. And it may seem silly, me referring to this TV show, but I actually enjoyed watching some episodes.
Yeah.
I was into fashion as a teenager. I just found... I used to read fashion magazines, and I found it an interesting form of artistic expression. And though there was quite a lot of immodesty in fashion magazines, however, a lot of these folks were coming from a place of knowing what the foundations of fashion and dress were, and then doing something different. It's sort of like an artist who learns how to draw properly and then does something different with it. But most of us don't even know the basics of anything. Right. And so what I found was that there was a TV show called What Not to Wear. I don't know if it's still on. And these two people, Stacey London and Clinton was the guy's name. First of all, I just love that they had Stacey London on there because she's an older woman and she had this amazingly gorgeous black hair with this beautiful streak of gray through it, and as a woman who's aging, I'm like, that's right. We're being represented here. Yeah. But anyway, she came out with some very concrete, very helpful suggestions on how to dress. Okay, so I'm just going to go over her things with you, and then I have a couple suggestions of my own. So number one, wear properly fitting undergarments. Okay, Stacy uses the funny phrase "lock and load them." Okay, in other words, get a fitting for a bra if you need to. Not everybody's like me. I can literally go to the Costco and buy a bra off the shelf, and it fits great, and it looks fine, and it's all good. Most women, a lot of women cannot do that, and I'm sorry if for those who can't, but just wear properly fitting undergarments. There's even pressure with, in the 90s it was all about the push-up bra. Okay, it was all about creating cleavage and making your breasts spill out of your clothing. And it was ridiculous. It's like, can you just at least leave our bra and panties alone? You have to get at every aspect of our clothing. So wear properly fitting undergarments, because if you start with a properly fitted underlayer, then as you build on that, things are going to look better as you build. So
gotta share Mrs. Anglo Ortho's comment. I watched every episode of What Not to Wear in High
that's
School.
funny.
Every
Oh my
one.
gosh, I enjoyed it.
I've seen some. Yeah, let me just mention about the show. One of the things that I thought was really fun. The friends of a lady. Well, I'm sorry. Was it always women or was it men?
No.
I can't.
It was mostly women.
Mostly women. But anyway, the friends of a woman would be like, she is so pretty and she just presents herself so horribly. Please help our friend, And so they would like volunteer their friend to be on the show, and I guess the friend would have to agree, I suppose.
Yeah.
And evidently they had to really sign away. They had to agree to a lot, because
they're throwing out their whole wardrobe.
one of the first things they would do is Clinton and Stacy would come to their wardrobe and they'd go through it and they'd be like, chuck
into the trash.
Okay, now let's start over.
I mean, that's pretty brutal.
It was kind of funny.
It's funny, but it was also, some people, it made them cry. I mean, you have an attachment to, okay, why did it make them cry?
Right.
Because how we dress matters.
Yeah.
Because our bodies matter.
Good point.
Okay? It matters.
Right.
It matters. Okay.
Right.
So, lock and load them.
Right.
Wear properly fitted undergarments.
Right.
If it doesn't fit, don't wear it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You said something to me personally that you didn't mention. I
what's
make
that?
sure you mention about like bra fittings.
Yeah.
You were saying it can be a little more expensive.
Oh, yes.
To go and get a bra fitted properly and stuff.
Yeah.
But you're just urging people. This is one of those areas. I like to say there's two kinds of things. There's the things where you get what you pay for. And there's the things where you can go cheap and get away with it.
Yeah.
The cheaper version is good enough, right?
Yeah.
Well, what you're saying is, in the area of bras, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Now, and it's not an area you want to skimp, unless off the shelf,
off the
rack works for you, but not everybody does.
But I'm not a large-breasted woman. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, it works for me. You know what I mean? So, okay, we've done with undergarments. Second point, if it doesn't fit, don't wear it. Okay.
Right.
I am getting older.
This has been hard for me because I wore clothes that were too big until I learned how to dress properly.
He would buy large.
Yeah, I'm not a big framed guy. I'm a slimmer frame.
Yeah.
And part of this whole process is just accepting what your body type is and working with it, as opposed to like pretending you have a different body than you do or something like that, right? So part of my process was going, okay, what really fits, and where the line of the shoulder of the shirt hits where my shoulder is.
Yeah.
Instead of down, lower, or up higher, or whatever. What really fits, and for me, in like a men's t-shirt, just an off-the-rack t-shirt, usually it's a men's small. My closet was just filled with mediums, larges, extra larges. I'm wearing a sack.
Blanket. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wearing like a sack, and it's hard because some of those t-shirts were, had something printed on them that meant something to me. It was related to some part of my life. And I'm like, but it just doesn't fit.
If I knew how to quilt, I could make you a quilt out of them anyway.
Yeah. So if it doesn't fit, don't wear it. Has been this day still a little painful. I look at certain things that are still in my closet and I'm like, it's just doesn't fit, and I shouldn't have gotten that size, and I just can't wear it.
I think
let it go.
With regard to women, I think the biggest offense that women make in this area is buying things that are too small. Okay.
So they're cramming themselves into shoes and
shoes
skirts.
are less. That's something that I think happens less. But pants were, it's just obviously too small. I know, and we're not talking about the obesity epidemic, but it's kind of a given in our culture, and we just, I think, but we also have an obsession with thinness and youthfulness, and so those two things have come together to have a really a very unpleasant result, which is that people are dressing the size that they wish they were or that they imagine themselves to be, and not what the size that you actually are. And I'm guilty of that too. You know, I am getting older. I am going into a new phase of my life hormonally, and I've put on some weight, and it's been strange. Like, it just sort of happened, and I'm like, oh gosh, where did all this weight come from? Well, it's just something that naturally happens to women who get to be my age, who are perimenopausal. And so I have had to buy new clothes because things just don't fit anymore, you know? So if it doesn't fit, don't wear it. You really need to buy the clothes for the size that you are. You may be aspiring to lose weight. You may, and if you don't want to spend a lot of money, I go to thrift stores and I find a lot of great stuff, you know, and so I'm spending a fraction of what I would normally spend if I were buying new clothes.
On fit, Mrs. Engel Ortho has a great comment. Men typically buy clothes too big and women too small. Very,
Yeah.
very revealing.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
We're a little compensating on both sides of the. So, okay, the third point that Stacey London makes is make use of your waistline. Now, here's what's tricky about this for women in our current day and age. Clothing is tailored to men. Okay, jeans are made to fit at the hip, not at the waist. Okay, and I'm seeing a really exciting trend.
And as the hippie thing went towards
Yeah.
androgynous dress, that
Yeah.
meant women adopted dress that had been designed for men,
Exactly.
like waist at the hip jeans.
Yes, and the problem with that is that if you've had a baby, then you're going to get the very unpleasant thing that is called muffin top, okay, where you literally have some of your gut hanging over your pants, and it's just really unattractive, okay? So what I mean by what she means by make use of your waistline is that a woman's waist is a lot higher up on her body, and it is the smallest part of your frame, and make use of it.
It's above your belly button.
It's above your belly button, actually. Yeah, it's like right above the belly button. So let's say you're wearing a skirt, you've got a longer sweater, put on a belt. You know, accentuate that waistline. Put the belt at your waistline. I am seeing in the stores the trend coming back of high-waisted pants. Thank you, God. Okay, because the high-waisted pants are actually go up to where it is actually a woman's waist.
Right.
Okay, and so there are other ways.
And also, you brought up the classic, I guess, A-line dress. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
the
An
classic, like
A-line
think of like a 50s A-line cut.
Where waist is here, and then the dress cut goes out this way.
Yeah.
That is
very,
such
very
a
attractive.
flattering
Yeah.
for any
Classic.
Yes, for any body type and for any size. An A-line skirt is just a really beautiful outline and goes up to the smallest part of your body. It accentuates that smallest part of a woman's body.
Right.
So, fourth point, try it on. Now, I'm struggling with this right now because since the pandemic, and I tend to thrift primarily for my clothing, I can't try on anything because they've taken out all of the apparently, if you have dressing rooms, you get COVID. So they took out all the dressing rooms, and so I can't try things on. Now, I'm pretty good at eyeballing things for myself. And I also look for certain fabrics and brands, and I know what things fit me. But if you can try it on, do. And don't just assume it's going to fit you. The next point is shoes. Now, Stacey, I remember on the show that she would make an emphasis on shoes, that shoes can be a really fun way to like make your outfit pop. Now, I have made the mistake recently, well, for a long time, of not investing in a nice pair of shoes. And part of the reason for that is because women's fashion and clothing changes so frequently. I mean, Steven can go out and get a pair of Allen Edmonds, and they will last him 15 or 20 years. You know, he may have to pay to change the sole. They're hundreds of dollars, but he'll get the soles redone. And he'll have those shoes for a really long time. Whereas women's fashion tends to change more frequently. But I've been really getting into the problem where I am going cheap on shoes and I am paying for it. My feet are hurting, they're falling apart. But shoes can really take an ordinary outfit and really make it pop. And it's just a way to have fun and express yourself, similar to a man's tie or bow tie, you know, or a pocket square. You can really kind of play and have fun with that, you know. 2 more points from Stacey. Don't buy things just because they're on sale. Totally guilty of that. Ooh, it's such a deal. And then I never wear it. So that's a bummer. And then last, stick with what you know. So I know what works with my body. I know that things that I like tend to be simple, elegant, tailored.
Mhm.
This is what I know works for me. And so when I go out and buy clothing, I tend to get stuff that is simple, elegant, tailored. And it just, I can put together an outfit without much thought. When I'm needing to go out with Stephen on a date, or I don't wear jeans and a t-shirt to leave the house. I do dress whenever I'm leaving the house.
Oh yeah, you're getting to that. Okay.
Yeah.
Go
Did
ahead.
you have any comments
No, no, no.
about those
You
last
you
few
were
things?
jumping to that one, so.
Okay. Well, do you have
which
any
is
other
fine.
comments about Stacey's London's suggestions?
No, I'm waiting for Mr. Radlib's suggestions.
I didn't know there was going to be any suggestions. Okay. Oh boy, he's got something up his sleeve.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's Stacey London's stuff from What Not to Wear, and here's some stuff specific to me. Know your season. Now, this is something that I was teaching my kids, my daughter in particular. What is your season? So, based on your skin tone and hair color and eye color, your look is associated with a certain season. So, I am a spring summer. And what this means is that pinks, blues look good on me, lighter colors look good on me, corals, things like that. Are going to look better on me. They're going to bring out my natural undertone of my skin. They're going to brighten my hair color, things like that. Whereas one of our daughters is very, very much a fall season. She looks fantastic in maroons and browns. I cannot step out in a brown. I just can't do it. It just does not work for me. Something just looks wrong when I wear brown. But our daughter can wear brown and she just looks amazing. It brings out the undertones of her skin. So know your season. And can be easily found out by doing a quick Google search. What season am I in terms of skin tone, hair color? Okay. Context is really, really important. If you're going to the gym, then you're going to want to wear sweatpants or leggings that are appropriate for working out.
Working in the garden.
Working in the garden, wear jeans. Jeans are great for working on our farm because they're hard wearing. I can scrape up against something. The goats can put their hooves on my legs and it's not going to tear my clothes, and then I can wash them and they're fine.
I do wear jeans, by the way. I
To
wear
work on the
wear
farm.
them when I'm working on the farm. I switch
Exactly.
into my tough work clothes.
Exactly. And that's really what jeans were originally.
Yeah.
Now they've been made over into being
Fashionable.
and I like jeans. Okay. I do like jeans and I do wear them. But I think, we need to get out of the habit. We need to allow our natural embarrassment to kick in. Okay. And we should not be going to the grocery store in clothes that you would normally work out in that are skin tight because you need freedom of movement because you're working out. Okay. You should not be wearing a sports bra and skin tight leggings to the grocery store.
Right.
That's appropriate to wear to the gym. And then change clothes before you leave. A lot of gyms have a shower option. Rinse your body, whatever you need to do, and then change your clothes before if you're going to do other errands. If you're just going home, then just come home, So context, it's really, really important. Hold on just a second. Here we go. So we're closer for work. We dress as much for others as we do for ourselves.
Right.
I feel uncomfortable when I see other women who are dressed extremely immodestly. And it's not because I'm a prude. Okay. Or when women are dressed bad and badly and poorly for their body. And,
Right.
It's just kind of a sad thing that this happens. How we dress is as important as every other way that we function in society.
Right.
Our clothing is kind of like a social contract. Oh my heavens.
Here, wait. So
my son just let in my cat.
This cat likes Heather.
Oh my gosh.
Will walk in to my office where animals are not supposed to be.
She climbs on my back all the time. Oh, this is Bianca. She's one of our farm animals. She was actually born here. Her mother was a feral. She's trying to climb onto my back. I'm going to give her to my son. Would you take her back outside, please? Okay. Can you get her in the door? Okay. Do your best. Okay. All right. Off you go. Go on. Thank you. Anyway, I forgot what I was saying. I'm distracted by my kitty cat.
I wanted to comment on this thing about thinking about the impression you make on others. I mean, we all know what the worst cases of this are.
Mm-hmm.
People who dress in a way that just make you feel unsafe,
Yeah.
or disrespected. So two examples leap to mind. For a man, it's dressing in a way that is like thuggish, you know. It's sending a signal that I am dangerous to you. I am out of control.
And with good reason. And in the culture where that style is came about, looking tough and making yourself look scary was a survival technique and beneficial. Right. But now it's become sort of a part of the larger fashion.
Right. So that's on the men's side. On the women's side, you know, I go to Walmart and the woman's shopping in her slippers.
Yeah.
Her bedroom slippers or something, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, it feels disrespectful.
Yeah.
To be blunt.
Yeah. You know, we go out a lot together, and we regularly get comments that Stephen more than me. Let me just point that out. Okay. He gets we get comments that, wow, we're so well dressed and all that, and we're really not. Okay. It's just that in comparison to everyone else, we've made an effort.
Right.
Okay. We've made an effort. I mean, all Stephen does is literally put on a pair of slacks and a jacket and tie and a button-up shirt.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not that difficult. And I love skirts. Stephen's not like standing over me, forcing me to wear a skirt. I just like them. Okay. And I put on a skirt and a nice blouse or a sweater. I accentuate my waist. I throw on some makeup. I brush my hair, and suddenly I look fabulous or something, you know, because everybody else is, you know, wearing a baseball cap and hasn't washed their hair in 3 days and it's in a ponytail or whatever. So it's okay to make an effort. It doesn't mean that you are boastful or showing off or anything like that. It's really okay. Okay, Stephen.
Okay, ready?
You got the smile that's winding up because you're gonna share something.
Since we're being very blunt about all of this, I'm going to share some things.
I'm scared.
Not that much. There's a book that I talk about sometimes called His Needs, Her Needs.
Yeah.
I'm going to share the list that he gives in the book of 5 typical needs of a man, and I'm sharing a link in the chat. 5 typical needs of a man, 5 typical needs of a woman. Obviously, individuals vary, but in general, this tends to hold, right? Number 3 on the list of men's needs, number 1, no shocker, is sexual fulfillment. Number 1 for women is affection. So actually, the number 1 need for both men and women has to do with
the bond.
With that bond, and to some degree physical, because affection is not just physical that women want, but it is in part physical. It's giving a peck on the cheek, a little hug, just, you know, regular connection, regular expression that, hey, I like you. Anyway, so that gives you a flavor of the lists. Number 3 on the list for men is, he calls it an attractive spouse, and in the chapter on that, he's very careful to be clear that he doesn't mean that men need to be dressed to Cindy Crawford or that's dating me, but you know,
she doesn't have to look like a supermodel.
Yes, right. That is
as
not
a woman.
That is not the need of a man.
No.
I don't know. Maybe it is for super rich men or something. I don't know. But what the need that the man has is that his wife makes an effort because it reflects on him. Okay. And I remember reading that years ago. I was single. And then got married and realized how much I liked the way Heather presented herself, in the way she dressed, and in another way, which I'll get to in a moment. And then we started, some years into our marriage, we went, we should have dates even when we're married, and we started to have regular dates. And we would go out, and she would really make an effort, and I remember that I could feel something like deep in my body. I was like, oh, this is real. The feeling of being out with my wife and feeling proud to be seen with her. Proud that this is the woman who consented to marry me, and we have had children together, and we are together. And I felt really proud that to have her on my arm, you know. And I was like, oh, that's what he's talking about. I'm feeling it in my gut, you know. It's real. It's not a shallow thing. It's like
No.
a deep thing.
Yeah.
She is, you know, we're one flesh. We're like part of each other in a really deep and intimate way. And if she makes herself look like garbage, that's like part of me that is looking bad, you know. Um, and it's saying something about us. It's saying something about me, and it feels bad. And it feels good, on the other hand, when she presents herself well, which
Right.
doesn't mean that she's the hottest looking woman in the room, or she's a 10, or should be on they should take a picture and put it on the cover of Elle right now. It doesn't mean all that. It means that she respects herself, she respects me, she has made an effort, and and I feel proud to be seen with her. You do not have to be the top prettiest woman in the world
No.
to produce this effect for your husband. You really don't.
No.
That's what he talks about in the chapter. He says a woman who takes care of her health and presents herself well with some of the tips that Heather was just going through from what not to wear. Just does some simple things, shows respect, and it reflects on her husband, and he feels that, and it meets a need that is deeper than you would think.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not shallow that a
Right.
man, you know, has this need for an attractive spouse,
Right.
for his spouse to make an effort. It really isn't shallow,
Mm.
you know. And I would say that if you're a man and you want a wife who is willing to make an effort for you, then you have to lead and start dressing well, you know.
So I wanted to give that man's perspective, and then I wanted to weigh in on. So that's some of the why. Again, emphasizing, you know, why to dress like a lady, why to dress both modestly, because that's another way that you could feel funny, right? Is my wife dressing to be seen looking nice with me, or is she dressing to get the attention of other men?
Yeah.
That's
I
that's
know.
not a good feeling.
And you know what? That's something I actually have thought about because, you know, if we're going out like for a special date, like for Valentine's Day, I mean, I do want to dress sexy, but I don't want to dress so sexy that other men
Other husbands
are like
in the room.
looking at me.
Yeah,
Good
yeah, right,
Lord, I don't want
right.
that.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's not a good feeling. Yeah.
Okay.
For the husband.
Or for me, really.
Yeah,
I mean,
so I wanted to give him the man's perspective on the why here of both
that's helpful.
both dressing modestly and dressing in a way that's complementary to your.
I wasn't sure where
looks and so
you
forth.
were going. You had that mischievous smile that you
Oh
get
well,
on your face.
no,
when
I
you-
haven't gotten to that part
Oh
yet.
no.
Okay, so that's the why, and now I want to weigh in on the how. So Heather's gone through some
boy.
of Stacy's from What Not to Wear, some of her own thoughts. I have some opinions,
Oh
and
boy.
it's my show, so I get to share them. And I'm just going to be blunt. I do have research backing me up on one of these for sure.
Oh boy. Okay.
Okay, first of all, kind of a personal opinion, but to my taste, denim, throw it out, ladies. If you're not working around on the farm or something like that, I just wouldn't wear denim. Seriously. No denim skirts, no denim jean skirts, no denim pants.
Not
I
even
don't
denim
care.
trouser pants.
I don't care if it's called jeans. No, just denim is just not a great look for women. I've never seen it look good. So that's a strong opinion I have. Okay, now less silly is hair. This is something that I have really seen a change. This is where I have seen a change in myself in terms of what I perceive because of being married to Heather. And that is, I didn't really notice like the health of hair, for example, particularly before I got married to Heather. And then after living with her for years, suddenly I started realizing, oh, there's a lot of women with very damaged looking hair. And I don't even know what that means because I don't know anything about what women do with their hair. I can just see it. It'll look like straw, you know. And I think you explained that is likely from doing color treatments, which dry the hair out.
It's very damaging to the hair.
It looking not healthy, right? I feel like there's, and I hear it from my wife. She resists the impulse. There is a grass is the greener on the other side thing that goes on. Of, oh, my hair is just boring. It's just brown. It's just, how can brown hair look pretty or whatever? You know, whatever. You know, my hair is just straight. or it's too curly. I wish I had beautiful straight hair like that actress or something. I hear this all the time from Heather.
Oh, because
Fortunately,
I have naturally straight hair, but I usually do a little something.
right.
So,
And she has beautiful hair, and yet I'll hear this grass is greener on the other side. And my guess is that's what's happening is women are acting on that impulse and trying to change their hair to be something it's not, into a color it's not, into a I don't know what you call straight versus curly, but
texture. It's
the
not.
texture. Okay, yeah, mess with the texture, and the end result is hair that just looks bad. It just doesn't look good.
Yeah,
I
it's been
really
over-processed, overheated, over
yeah,
everything.
over colored. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really recommend to women that they consider working with the hair that God gave them. And there's two things to do about that, to do with that. One is don't overprocess it.
Yeah.
Figure out how just to have healthy, natural hair. That's what Heather does. She just takes care of her hair, and people will comment. People will say, "You have beautiful hair," and she just takes care of it. She doesn't do fancy stuff to
Part of it is genetics too. I mean,
Sure, but there's things women can do,
yeah.
right? They've got a lot of moisturizers and things you can do. If your hair tends to be dry,
Conditioner.
if your hair tends to be dry, or on the other hand, oily
Yeah.
or whatever. There's things you can do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So figure out how to work with the hair that God gave you and do the best you can with that hair. And number two, and I'm going to come down really strong on this, and some people are going to not like it. Wear your hair long. I'm not saying this because I'm like being a Bible thumper, because in the Bible it talks about wearing your hair long.
Right.
I'm not talking about this from the point of view of being a Bible thumper. I'm telling you this as a man who looks at women and notices. And also there's some research, which I can provide you if you ask me, to back this up. Men like women having long hair. End of the story. And I know you're thinking what I thought when I first started thinking this. You're thinking about Audrey Hepburn. Oh, she was so cute. I remember I was reading this article recently talking about some research about how men just never choose, when looking at different images of like what looks pretty to them, they never choose the short hair. They always like the long hair. Always. I think the whole short hair thing is something that came from women and, shall we say, fashion designers who do not find women attractive, to put it politely. So I just think this is a lie, and you should reject it. The whole short hair is so cute. It isn't. Okay, so, and in this article talking about long hair and the evidence that men prefer long hair, the author addressed the Audrey Hepburn question, right? Audrey Hepburn was very pretty, and even with short hair, she looked cute too, right? And then the author did a simple thing. She put a picture of Audrey Hepburn with short hair next to a picture of Audrey Hepburn with long hair. And she said, even she looked better with long hair. So I was like, okay, that clenches it. I am not backing down on this anymore. I'm going to be bold and say it.
Wow.
Wear your hair long, ladies. Let it be natural and beautiful. Wear it long. The scriptures talk about the hair being the glory. The woman is the glory of the man, and her hair is the glory of the woman, or something like that. I don't know if I'm quoting.
I think you're not getting it right, but
really?
no.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, okay, you can look it up. Well, that's interesting.
She didn't know I was going to say something.
I didn't know any. No, it's fine. When I converted to Christianity, I instinctually started growing my hair back out. I had cut it to my shoulders, and by the time Stephen and I married, it was past my waist. It was down to my hips. And looking back, I realized that for me, it was a personal decision to sort of honor God as a way of preparing for marriage, because I wanted to be married and I didn't know if I was going to be married. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work to take care of long hair. But I do think that women do look lovely in long hair.
Even older women, in my opinion, by the way. Okay. I've seen older women where their hair is graying, like you talked about Stacy, where she has the. Yeah. But even once it's gone completely gray, I've seen older ladies where they're, and some people go gray early. I have a friend who his whole family does that. I met all his siblings. They all had gray hair and they were 30 or 40.
Wow.
Yeah. But anyway, whether it goes gray early or just because you've gotten older, I've seen women who wear their hair long and it's still healthy and gray, and it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
even on an older woman. And I think we've sort of associated long hair with
Younger.
women, but I think it works fine on older women
Well,
too.
and when I first started having babies, there was this pressure to cut my hair. Like, oh, it's just too much work to take care of long hair while you have all these babies. And there was also this pressure to not wear like dangly earrings and stuff. And I was like, look, I'm not changing who I am in terms of in terms of my appearance, because I've had children. I want I like having my long hair. And
If I can find it, I'll share the great mom cut sketch from Studio C. Or was it? No, it was Saturday Night Live.
no, it wasn't.
What?
Saturday Night Live was never that clever.
It was Studio C.
Yes, it was Studio C.
Yeah. She comes in and just her hair magically turns into the short mom cut. It's really fun.
It's Studio C.
Here's the passage. Lambda's mentioned it.
Okay.
1 Corinthians 11. I was quoting 2 verses that are separated by a little bit, but I'll read both. For a man indeed ought not to cover his head, for as much as he is the image and glory of God, but the woman is the glory of the man. Then skipping forward. If a woman have long hair, it is a glory for her, for her hair is given her for a covering. So that's the Bible passage part. But seriously, I'm just talking strictly from the point of view of what looks good on women, and longer hair just looks better. It just does. And I've been very open-minded, and I'm a big fan of Audrey Hepburn. And yes, she looks cute in short hair, but even she looked better in long hair. So
all right.
There's the facts, laying it down.
Them's the facts. Well, I hope that y'all have learned something.
Our daughter says in the chat, but babies need your hair to be long so they can pull it.
Yes. The pulling of the hair. Yes.
Okay, well, let's, we can take a few minutes to,
absolutely.
I think we just have a super chat which has no comment. It's just money.
Okay.
Lenny, wait, I don't know how to say that.
Leonard?
Leonard?
Yeah.
I don't know what that name is, but thank you very much for sending us some euros.
Okay. Are there any questions that you want to pull out or anything?
Yeah, I've been trying to kind of catch them as they've been going, as we've been going, but let's just look over real quick before we wrap up. Lambda liked all the quotes, the Keats and the Mark Twain, and
I love that.
He was appreciating the quotes. So.
Yeah, I love that Keats poem.
Deloria says that moment when you join a stream to hear "Walking Around Naked."
Well, we like to keep it a little spicy for you so you guys can hold interest here, but I do hope some of you will go out and get this book, A Return to Modesty.
Yeah, it's good.
It's really well done. And I'm going to be discussing another book coming up here in a few weeks, and honestly she covers a lot in this book that I'll be discussing in another book. So again, what I see in the theme of the various things that we've discussed as it relates to the sexual revolution is just a denial and a disassociation of what is actually our innate natural need. So anyway.
Okay, a couple things to share from our friends here. So Mrs. Anglo Ortho, I didn't want to read this earlier, but now let's do this.
Okay.
She says, in my 20s, learned how to disassociate with this Buddhist quote. Fear is a natural reaction of moving closer to the truth. It's also a red flag that what you're doing might be killing you.
Ooh, yeah.
For a couple years, I only did things that made me scared, which means I only did things that hurt me and everyone around me.
Oh, wow.
And then she says, Leonard says, so seeing how 18 girls way under 18 dress today, they feel less and less valuable, younger and younger. That's a disturbing thought. Mrs. Anglo Ortho says, yes, disturbing that young women are learning to yearn for discomfort and devaluing themselves. So I thought it really penetrating and and painful comments to hear, because what you described at the top of the show with the woman getting pressured to present herself in a way that her feelings were telling her, don't walk around in bra and panties, and don't be on a billboard, and don't have naked photos of myself taken. Her feelings are directing her correctly.
Yes.
She's being pushed to
deny them.
She
feels unsafe.
Well, we have a couple generations now, I think, of women who have been encouraged to go against what their feelings are telling them.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But not just in dress, but in terms of other kind of behavior.
It's really dangerous.
It's dangerous.
It's really dangerous. And I think
it's like, I mean, this is exaggerated. Well, no, it's just to make it really concrete. Think of, you've got a small child and they are near a cliff edge and they shy away, and you say, no, don't shy away. Override those feelings of fear and get closer and closer to the cliff edge, honey. you know?
Except in this case, the cliff edge is sexual assault
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Putting yourself in
being
unsafe
publicly
situations.
humiliated.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Right.
you know, I mean, come on, people. So,
Okay. I have some other ones to pull out
yeah.
unless you had a further comment on that.
Well, I guess I wanted to just say with regard to myself personally, I hope that no one believes that I'm sitting here on my high horse thinking, oh, I'm such a great dresser. I mean, I'm not.
We're talking about basics,
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about basics. And even I had to learn these
fundamentals.
things. I
Yeah.
mean, I was raised in the ruins, you know,
Yeah.
and I didn't dress particularly immodestly as a teenager, but kind of. Especially in the way of short skirts and tight skirts and things like that. You know, Stephen can tell you that when I was first around at the church, even if I wasn't dressed immodestly, I put off a vibe.
Yeah. It was less about exactly how you were dressed, but
Hmm.
just where you were at
Yeah.
because you were, you know, you'd just become, well, when I first met you, you had not become a Christian yet.
Hmm.
And you were in a pretty bad place. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that for me, learning to dress modestly, I kind of went pretty drab initially because I just didn't know what I was doing. Um, and then I have finally, you know, landed in a place where I, um, you know, stick with what I know kind of thing. And I
Mm.
tend to wear things that come in at the waist, a line
Right,
cut,
right.
and things like that. And I've never
Yeah.
been one.
And you don't dress super flashy, right? Like there's that fun couple, which we like seeing pictures of. The one
Mhm.
couple, are they in New York or whatever? Where
The
the
older couple.
older couple, where
Oh,
they,
I love the way they dress.
yeah, they
If I
dress in
could
a
afford it,
really,
I would dress like
yeah,
that.
they dress in a really attention-getting way and in a
Yeah.
way that goes together. Their
Yes.
outfits are
Complimentary.
not matching necessarily,
Yeah.
but really complementary,
Yeah.
and it's fun. I mean, they're like using themselves as a canvas
Yes.
and doing art.
Now, see,
you
I
know?
love that. I just
And it's
we
really
can't afford
cool, but
that.
well, it's partially that, and it's partially just we're having a bunch of small children. We're not like going
Yeah.
out on the town every day and
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
okay, Caleb, are you going to collapse if we don't talk to you?
Sorry, we have a child
Could
that
you
has
step
come
out?
in
I'll
about
read a couple more
6
comments,
times
and
here.
you
Okay.
you
I'll
see
be right
see if
back.
his arm is falling off. Okay, so a couple other things from the chat that I liked. Lambda said, well-fitting, modest clothes are actually more flattering. Totally. Oh, totally. I
missed it. I missed it.
yeah, Lambda's comment, well-fitting,
Sorry.
modest clothes are actually more flattering.
Yes.
I remember after I think watching What Not to Wear a bit with, it's sort of brought my attention a little bit more, and I just noticed how a woman carrying some weight would have like these super tight like short shorts, and her belly's spilling out over the top of the shorts. And I'm thinking, you know, if she dressed properly, she'd look fine.
Yeah.
She isn't like,
Yeah.
you know, horribly obese or anything, but she has somehow found a way to make her body look about as bad as it could look. You know? So yeah, the thing about well-fitting clothes actually being more flattering.
Yeah.
Totally.
They are more flattering. And listen, I'm not trying to say here that you need to have a perfect body. Okay. There's a lot of pressure to look a certain way, to basically look youthful, even after you are older, and also to be very, very thin. We have this and fit in our culture. You know, as women, we tend to carry more fat on our body naturally, and there is a way to be healthy physically, but not be super, super thin and look like you're a supermodel. You know, you can still be healthy and have fat on your body and dress attractively and all those things, you know. So.
Okay, we better keep rolling because now they're giving me more stuff I want
Oh,
to talk
no.
about.
Wait,
okay, here we
more?
go. Quick. Okay, so Lambda quoted a great passage from Proverbs when we were talking about gray hair. Gray hair is a glorious crown. It is found in the way of righteousness. Emmeline's comment, man, 5 years old, kindergarten, right? That'd be about 5.
Yep.
My hippie parents wore ripped jeans when I was little.
Mm-hmm.
I asked them not to wear them when picking me up from kindergarten because I was embarrassed.
Oh my gosh.
Think about,
Wow.
we were talking about feeling proud of your spouse.
Right.
Think about you dress so badly that your 5-year-old child is like, Dad, Mom, stop, please. I mean, wow, you know?
This is where I had the benefit of grandparents. Like my parents were dressing in their hippie way, but I was with my grandparents a lot. And my grandmother put me in the most adorable, not pinafore, but gosh, what's that ruche? Not at the, I'm forgetting the name of it, but these adorable little dresses that tied in the back. And then I had white socks on and cute little saddle shoes. They were adorable. I like that.
Mrs. Anglo Ortho, Americans have a reputation for overwearing jeans. Denim is workwear or casual wear.
Right.
If you are in public at all, you are not in a casual environment.
Amen to that.
That's a good
That's
attitude.
right. When you
And,
go into, yeah.
and thank you, Mrs. Anglo Ortho, for backing me up on the denim thing. I appreciate it. Vape King says women should dress ladylike, especially if they believe in God. Okay, let's see. And then I want to get further because there's just another couple things. Let's see. Yeah, I never comment on ladies' clothing, but the people I work with, male and female, still dress like students despite being in their 30s and 40s. It really annoys me as a suit wearer. Yeah, I use a briefcase. It's called a lawyer's bag technically, but it's it's like a briefcase style, lawyer style. I use that to carry my laptop to work and other things. And sometimes people are like, what is that you're carrying? Because everybody uses a backpack like they're still in college.
Even when I was in college, I didn't dress like a college student.
That's right.
I mean, the girls there were a lot of athletes on the college campus, and girls were dressed in sweatpants and t-shirts and ball caps, and maybe every once in a while I'd wear a ball cap, like I slept in, and I don't know. But most of the time I dressed like I was going out. I wore tights and dresses and shoes, and I was not a Christian, so sometimes my dresses were a little short. I really enjoyed sunglasses as a fashion statement, so I had like 6 pairs of cheap sunglasses where I would change them out depending on what my outfit was, and I liked to play around with you mentioned dressing androgynously. I kind of would borrow things from men's clothing, but then I would make them feminine. So I would wear, a women's collared shirt, but then I would throw a man's wool vest over it, and then I would have a jacket on, and then I'd have a skirt on with that. So I like to layer and really have fun with my clothes. So
again, getting some backup here from the friends.
am I going to have to throw out all my jeans, people? Okay.
Lambda says long natural hair does wonders.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, agreed. And then there are a couple more things right at the end here. Women also respect women with long hair more.
Interesting.
That I hadn't thought. That's interesting.
That's interesting.
Huh.
I'll have to think about that one. Thoughts on high heels?
He said he throws 2 at you, which could stretch this out too long. But wait, thoughts on high heels and how much makeup is appropriate?
Oh boy!
Do you want to give some hot takes? Quick, not hot takes, but quick takes.
I like heels. I remember my grandma back in the day. She said she had really great legs, and she would So my grandparents would never leave the house in what was considered casual or house clothing. Okay. My grandmother wore a house dress around the house, and whenever she was even going to the grocery store, she put on her makeup, she put in her teeth, she did her hair, and she went to the store. She was of the generation that wore white gloves. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Even if you were poor, you still made an effort to be presentable to the public. And she would wear heels, and she said it would make her calves stand out and look more attractive. I don't know. I mean, I think heels are fine. I don't have a dissertation to offer as far as heels, whether they're attractive or not, or modest or not. I do like them. I think super high heels are associated with women being more immodest. We know that. But I think a heel can elongate the leg, can really add to the outfit quite a bit. I personally cannot wear really high heels at all. I've taught my daughters the term kitten heel. So
what does that mean?
Our twins, a kitten heel is just a short heel.
Oh, okay.
So our twins know the term kitten heel. Mom, are you gonna wear your kitten heels? It's really kind of funny. And then makeup. Oh boy. So I, started wearing makeup at age like 11 or 12.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was what you did.
Sort of the government school culture, right?
Yeah, and
For what you were picking up on there.
right, exactly. And I remember my father was against it, but he was
Hmm.
already out of the home and really didn't have
Interesting.
a say. And he also was and is an alcoholic. And so, he kind of sabotaged his own ability to have proper input, but he had very good instincts. He did not
Mm.
want me doing womanly things.
Presenting yourself. Yeah.
Yes, he didn't want me to
Yep.
get my ears pierced. He did not want me wearing makeup. He thought I should never wear nail polish. And
That's
those
interesting.
his words stuck with me. And
Mm.
so whenever I tried stuff, I was usually very modest about it. So,
Mm.
I mean, again, we associate makeup with performance, right? With being fake, with presenting yourself in a way that is maybe not quite you. I would say makeup at its best accentuates your already good features. It conceals maybe blemishes that you have that are temporary, or with people with skin conditions, you can use it to kind of
Mm-hmm.
conceal a little bit. But I've seen makeup videos where literally can't tell the beginning
Yeah.
person from the end person.
That seems.
And I think
That
that is
feels bad.
deceptive.
That
Well,
feels bad.
it feels
Yeah.
bad because it's deceptive.
Yeah.
Okay. And what exactly are you trying to do? If I'm going into a performance, which I started performing when I was 6 years old, in dance and ballet and tap and all the kinds, and they would have makeup put on us as part of the performance, not
Mm-hmm.
not making us look like a
Older.
older,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but just as part of the outfit or whatever. And um, you know, I think just be aware that makeup is a way that you can deceive people, and is that the image and the self that you want to present to the world? Do you want a man to be shocked on your wedding day when you take off your makeup and he's like, "Oh my gosh, this is not who I married," So I think, I always encourage people to be real, to be honest about yourself. I mean, obviously I do wear makeup, but it's very, very minimal. And yeah, so
Okay, so Lambda on this subject says interesting to think of the effect of absent fathers on the dress choices of the daughters.
yeah.
That's a sobering thought. And then
Yep.
final thing, Mrs. Anglo Ortho reminds me of what I should have had on my RadLib's hot takes here, in addition to um, hair and denim. She mentions the other thing, but I'm going to use the words of somebody very funny on the internet. I forget who it was. He said, "Ladies, yoga pants are not pants."
Again, context. They're
I
great
thought,
for yoga.
I thought that was the best.
Yoga
That was
pants
a
are
great
not
way of
pants.
putting it.
Yeah.
As Mrs. Anglo-Otho puts it, unpopular opinion: leggings are not clothing; they are underwear. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm seeing women. Well, at the gym, it's like you're at the gym, so I don't know. But out and about,
Mm-hmm.
and you're wearing something that's just absolutely leaves nothing to the imagination from the waist down.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it just I don't think it's complicated in the context of what we've discussed. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
just immodest, and furthermore, generally, as a man, I don't think it's a good look.
Yeah.
I think it's not complimentary. I think it's much nicer when my wife has uh, a nice dress that's
Mm-hmm.
got that, like has the waist at the right place and everything. She just looks so feminine, so beautiful. That to me is much more exciting than, Velcro,
Yeah.
uh,
Well, again,
I'm sorry, vacuum sealed clothes, you know.
wasn't there a trend in the 80s about women wrapping themselves in saran wrap or something to lose weight or something?
I don't know what those.
Anyway, those 80s, it was a
Yeah.
crazy time. Context is what you're referring to. Okay, it's totally fine if you want to wear that to the gym. Okay,
Though interesting, contra that, Mrs. Anglo-Ortho says the gym is public. You should not wear leggings at the gym either.
Well,
There are stretchy, modest skirts that are safe to work in.
I will say I am seeing a personal trainer to deal with some issues I was having. We don't really have postpartum care in this country, and I had a lot of babies, and there was just no suggestions about um, addressing what was happening with my core. Okay. And then I had some surgeries. I had some issues with my gut, including cancer. And I ended up having like 5 abdominal surgeries in total, if you count my cesarean. Anyway, I had 1 cesarean. Anyway, so my core muscle structure was just trash, and I was getting injured. And I would just be like walking across our yard, and I would end up with my hip out of whack,
Because of stepping in a hole
just
or
stepping in a
something.
mole hole or something. And I'm like pain for like months. And, so, I have been going to this personal trainer, and I have found that wearing baggier, looser fitting stuff, it just gets in the way. I mean, she's putting these bands on me, and I'm having to do resistance. And so, I totally get why wearing the skin tight leggings is helpful for people who are, I mean, this is therapy for me, and she's actually asked me to wear those, and I have not obeyed, because I'm like, look, I'm not a particularly big woman. I'm not feeling overly embarrassed about my body. It's just, I just have this mindset of wanting to keep myself more covered,
Mm-hmm.
but so I don't disparage people who want to wear those things, who need freedom of movement. And I know we have a long way to go in our culture in terms of, I think begin by just keeping context in mind. Wear gym clothes to the gym, change when you're done, and wear other things. But you're right, this is Anglo Ortho. Gym is a public place. But I
We've
would
got to
say
we've got to end co-ed gyms.
in co-ed gyms. Well, I'm not against it. I'm not against it. And I have to tell you, it angers me, this whole trend over the last couple decades of, you know, um, boys can't have their clubs anymore. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right,
Like,
right.
come on. Why
Yeah.
can't people have a club and
So
then not have people in their club? I
so
mean,
Heather actually caught the tail end of something that used to be quite common. She went to a more conservative school that had been a woman's school originally,
yeah, back in the 60s.
and then they allowed men to be there,
Mhm.
but the dorms were not co-ed.
Right.
And her girlfriend got kicked out of that school for having a guy in her dorm room.
Yeah.
So they were serious about it.
Yeah. So there were not
Um,
co-ed dorms when I
so
was
so
going
even
there.
though Heather's relatively young, she got to experience like a much older tradition of
Yeah.
keeping young men and women in separate spaces, so that's interesting. And of course, that is just to our egalitarian age, um, that is just would drive them crazy. The
Hmm.
idea of going back to getting rid of co-ed and going back to places for women and places for men, that is so against the spirit of the age. But that doesn't mean it's wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
It might be a good idea.
I do have one more point to make with
Yeah.
regard to clothing. Look, we have an amazing abundance of choices, clothes that you can just buy straight off the rack,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and at cheap prices. I mean, this is an amazing time to live in terms of the amount of choice, and availability of really inexpensive clothing. However, just because you can go out to a store and buy something that is your size, whatever that size may be, doesn't mean it's going to fit your body the way it should, and doesn't mean that it necessarily has to fit your body the way it should. Tailors are out there and very valuable and are sort of the unsung heroes of the fashion world. Okay. It is okay to buy a skirt off the rack, find a local tailor, go in and get a fitting. Okay. It's totally fine to go and alter that clothing. Our one daughter really wants to learn how to sew in such a way that she can get something from the thrift store, buy a skirt for $3, $4, and then take it home and alter it to fit her. That is totally wonderful. And do it. Do it. Find out where your local tailors are and get it fitted for you. And then you've got a nice skirt that you feel confident in. And that's really the point. Okay. The point is, I mean, yes, modesty. Yes, we've got a war on embarrassment. But you know what? When I wear clothing that is fits me, that looks good on my color, with my skin, with my hair, I go out in public and I just forget about it. And I am able to just be myself in confidence. I'm not worrying about my clothing. I'm not worrying about if my gut is hanging over my pants.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not worrying about if my breasts are showing,
Mm-hmm.
all this kind of stuff. I am just able to be myself.
Right.
And I am able to command confidence and respect, when I am dressed in a way that is attractive, and yet modest.
Right.
Okay. And that's what I'm trying to encourage women to give themselves the gift of. Give themselves the gift of looking and feeling valued and confident and respected, such that they can just lead with themselves instead of lead with, oh boy, how do I look? Because that's
Mm-hmm.
really what people are thinking inside themselves. or they've just gone all the way the other direction. They're like, that's right, I'm entitled to be out here showing my flesh. I mean, that's not a healthy attitude either.
Right.
So use your tailor. I'm sure they can appreciate the business. Or if you know people who can sew, ask them to give you some tips and tricks. I mean, that's
Emmeline
a good
says Emmeline says most of the clothes being sold are poor quality,
Yeah.
too see-through, too short,
Yeah.
too tight. That's part of the reason that Heather does a lot of thrifting. 'Cause
Yeah.
she's literally buying clothes from before some of these certain fashion trends.
You guys can't
Right.
see it, but I am wearing a Donna Karan houndstooth skirt that has a liner that is pleated and A cut, and I got it for $4 at a thrift store. Okay. Now that right there is a deal. Okay. But I also look for vintage clothing because vintage clothing tends to be higher waisted. It tends to be fitted for a woman's body, a real woman's body.
Yeah.
Okay. And you can buy, and if it's
Not a stick. Yeah.
right, and the sizes are different. They've changed over the decades. Okay. So if you're buying vintage, try to buy 1 or 2 sizes up and then take it to the thrift store and get it fitted for you. Okay. And maybe you'll spend 20, maybe you'll buy the skirt for $4 and then spend $20 fitting it. Whatever, that's a great deal. And then you'll have a skirt that you feel good about yourself in and confident in for the entire, however long.
So back to the co-ed gym thing real quick, since that's our
boy.
spicy.
This is a can of worms.
That's our spiciest take on this stream, I think.
Oh boy.
I just was remembering that I observed this at the gym I go to. It is a co-ed gym, right? But I like to watch. We talk about revealed preference.
Oh yeah.
Versus.
I think I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah. Well, what I've noticed is the weights where I do my workouts is 99% men, and the women are in group aerobics classes.
Oh yeah.
Where someone leads it, and they're all or whatever, and listening to funky music and all this. So in other words, though we pass each other in the hall, when we're actually working out, I'm mostly around the bros, and the women are mostly dancing around to some song.
Yeah.
But usually led, as far as I remember, always led by a woman.
So
it's
nice.
It's effectively co-ed in terms of when you're actually exercising.
Now you go to a community center that is,
Yeah.
pretty conservative, but anyway.
Okay, so let's wrap it up. I think we
Okay.
got all the comments from
Yeah.
all the people and went through everything. Thanks so much for continuing to support this. It's really exciting to see. One of the things I look for is people will refer to us without us prompting them, They'll say, oh yeah, RadLib covered this on his show, or Mrs. Radlib said something about that, So, we are getting watched. People are picking up on what I hope is not so flashy, but some depth, that we're trying to bring in what we each do on the channel. So
Yeah, and if you have
Thanks.
questions, if there's things that you want to talk to me about privately, just reach out. It's totally fine.
yes, should always highlight this at the end of the show. If you look in the video description, there's a pointer to a Discord server. Our friend Lambda hosts a channel there called the mrs-radlib-channel. And there's a group of people, some of the people in this chat participate in that. And also on that server, there is a women's only and a men's only, a women's only channel. And so sometimes when it's feeling like they don't want to talk about it in mixed company, they'll bring it up there, or just literally send a message directly to Heather to talk about a topic.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many YouTube channels come with that kind of,
Connectivity.
After the stream, you have more options to talk and to get discussion and get input from the community. But I think that's a great aspect of the Mrs. RadLib series that's available.
Yeah, and if you do, I do go back and look at the comments. If you leave a comment, I'll try to say something there. And
it's hard because you can't really comment directly on the live chat.
Yeah, I can't comment on the
But
live
sometimes
chat.
in the comments, you will say something in response to something someone said in the live chat.
Yes, I will. So.
Right. Or if you just leave a comment later when comments are open, then she can directly respond to you there.
Yeah. So, we were going to do hospitality as this month's thing, but then I just wasn't prepared. So we went ahead and talked about modesty, but I'm hoping to hit on this topic of hospitality, especially as we're going into the holiday season when
Yeah.
there's a lot of opportunity for hospitality. And yeah.
And we have been doing basket weaving,
Yeah, we've been doing basket weaving here at our farm.
hosting that.
Yeah. So, I'm really excited because a tutoring class has, on coding has come out of that for our kiddos who are just,
Yep.
one kiddo in particular. I feel like he's found his raison d'etre. You know, he's like,
He's excited.
he's loving it.
Yeah,
But-
one of the young men who's coming to the basket weaving is being a private tutor for two of our sons on coding.
which is such a blessing
So
to
cool.
me personally.
Yeah.
I mean, I am a little overwhelmed.
As the
and-
homeschooler.
yeah, I'm just a little overwhelmed and so anyway, lots of topics that we can talk about. If you guys want, if you have suggestions for topics for us, like housekeeping, keeping a good house or a clean house, a well ordered home, we can talk about that. I mean, I don't know that we've been talking about lots of things that we can chat about, but so probably hospitality is going to be next. But if you have suggestions, something you'd like for us to discuss, I'd be happy to do it.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Great participation as usual. Really appreciate those who are able to catch the live stream on a Saturday and jump in with some comments. So,
Yep.
okay.
Okay. Thanks
Bye.
so much, guys.